Welcome to ways you can support your lowest students. I have gotten lots and lots of reach out from teachers that are in inclusion settings this year, asking pretty much the same question. Like, oh, yeah, I get it, we're doing inclusion, but how the heck am I helping the lowest students in my classroom? The ones that are not reading at grade level, or maybe are not reading at all, the ones that struggle with writing just basic sentences and words. How can I teach them, secondary level or grade level material when they are unable to do the work? So this course is designed not only to help you support them, but to support all levels in your classroom. So the first tip that you saw on your tip page was that one way you can do this is to balance whole class lessons with small groups and individual work. So what you see in front of you is one model. It is a model that you can use. This works really well in content areas, in social studies, in science, in math, music, art, facts, any subject matter. And you'll notice that there's some green and there's some pink. The green is teacher centered. The teacher is really doing the teaching and the facilitating, and the pink is student centered. One of the things that we want to think about is to keep the kids kind of moving along, giving them different things to do, because the more kids switch it up, the less behavior problems you'll have. And the way that this is designed will allow for some modification within some of the time sections. So let's just start with the first one, setting the stage. This can be about 10 to 15 minutes in a 60-minute block. This could be 15 to 20 minutes in an 80-minute block. But here it's whole class. You're meeting with the class and you're setting the stage, just like it says. So you might give them some background information, you might tell them a story, but at the end of it, you might model something like, watch me how I do this. But at the end of it, you pose a question. And that question is what really frames the rest of the work. So after you do some of this setting the stage, we move into this digging in document. And digging in is more student centered. So the kids have the question that you've posed, and then they're going to use this 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how long your block is, to go and dig in, to try to figure out, like, what might the answers be to this question that the teacher has asked me to figure out. You'll notice that this line says multiple ways of interacting with content. Just tuck that into your hat for a little bit. We're going to come back to it because that's actually one of the other tips on the course. But really, they're using this digging in time to go and try to find answers to the question or the questions that you've posed. And that's about 15 to 20 minutes. After they do that 15, 20 minutes, it's still a student-centered section, but they're moving on to processing and discussion. Now, this processing can be done individually, it can be done with partners, it can be done with small groups, and it can be as simple as, when I was in digging in, I took all kinds of notes, maybe on a slide that you gave me, or in a notebook, or on a Google Doc, or on a Jamboard, or whatever, just to kind of keep track of my thinking. And now I'm going to bring it to my partner, and my partner and I are going to have this discussion and share our notes about what we think the answer is, and maybe come up with an answer between the two of us. Or I might meet with, 2 or 3 or 4 kids, and we might all share the answers that we think we got, have a discussion, and then come up with an answer that we're all satisfied with. But it's this time to process. They've been digging in, they've been looking at all kinds of material, and now it's their chance to kind of think to themselves, or with others, what do we think the answer is? What did we notice in all this material? What do we want to say when we get back to this return and wrap? Another thing I want you to tuck into your hat, because it's actually another tip, is many ways to show what was learned. And we'll come back to that. So the last part of this classroom model is this idea of coming back together, wrapping it up. It's a closure. And again, the teacher is back in the center, although the students are also in the center. And it's this whole class debrief and discussion discussion. So you may pull them back together and say, what is it that your groups discussed, or what is it that your partners discussed, or bring the thing you filled out to process it individually, and let's have a larger conversation. And then typically at the end of this, there's an exit ticket to check for understanding, and that would be the entirety of the classroom model. One thing I want you to think about is how very different this is than lecture. There's a famous quote that says, those who do the work do the learning. And in a lecture model, the teacher's doing all the work. The kids are sitting passively, they're listening, they may be taking some notes, but there isn't a lot of chance to kind of dig into the material, to get some one-on-one attention if you're struggling with the material or struggling to understand. And they are sitting for a very, very long time. And we know the longer kids sit in doing one thing and one thing only, that's where the behavior problems happens as well. So in this model, although the teacher is doing a bit of teaching in the beginning, we're really not spoon feeding them all the answers like we would in a lecture and notes. We're saying, this is the question, and I want you to go out and find the answers, which really models what a 21st century learner should be doing, because the teachers are no longer the holders of knowledge. The internet is the holders of the knowledge. So we really want to teach our kids that you can go out and dig into all of this material and come up with your own thoughts and your own answers based on the facts that you're reading about. So this model kind of pivots away from lecture and spoon feeding and notes, and it makes it so that the kids are doing something different every 15 minutes, which will allow for less behavior problems, and it will also allow for you and your consultant teacher to move throughout the class, giving the support that the kids will need.